I'm just going to come out and say it. I think this might be one of the best formats in the game's history. Don't make the 30% of you that have not smashed the ever-living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. I've already seen people complaining about, new format lists. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they blew up Cash Zero like that. I just invest in... Cash is fine, all right? Like, you can still play the deck. Oh, it stinks that you just lost to a kaiju, but you know what? That's fine. You know what? Your deck is still playable. It's gonna top a couple regionals. I'm sorry that, the free chicken nuggies that you had, the Auto Zone Luck 9000, that was just the freest thing in the world, doesn't exist anymore. Alright? That's the biggest thing. The thing that's got me most excited about this format is, when you look at, the landscape of very early data, well, yes, I know, very early data in most cases across most formats does look quite interesting until people start to figure things out. But there are just... They've optimized things so much here that it looks like across the board, everything looks very good. Now, I don't need to be the person to tell you this, but, we're probably stuck with this list up through Duelist Nexus. So what in the world does that mean? Infernal Knights are going to come storming on into the format here. They're going to look really cool. You're going to have, new Synchron shenanigans as well in the near future. I can't wait to, be able to turbo out Ancient Fairy Dragon and be able to do, the little things. Of course, Synchro players are going to get a big W. The future landscape of this list looks fantastic. Looks like one of the best metagames. And then, of course, you have battles coming out here probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I actually will probably see reveals in a week and a half, if I had to guess, typically following the trends that we tend to see there. But I mean, what's really going to change? I mean, you get some cool alt arts, you'll get a couple of cool insertion cards, but the Assault Synchron stuff, you're probably not going to have to deal with until, much later in Duelist Nexus. So, and the same thing with Rescue Ace and stuff coming down the pipeline too. It just looks good, but we're knees deep in WCQ season. Right now, a lot of people are kind of, going crazy right now trying to figure out what they want to play for the big event. Very early data has actually kind of told me some interesting stories about some things in this format. Purely being one of the more interesting things out here. Purely has had so many different paths that it's gone down to this point. It's actually been insane. Some of the most notable ones, I mean, obviously the inclusion of the sprite package in the deck, being able to toggle out, a monster to be able to expedite the process to do its thing. And then to top things off, also the inclusion of some of the more power cards that you kind of get with the deck. Obviously, you can play Dark World stuff, the Shadal packages in there. There are so many different things that you can do, and the reason why I specifically mention Purely is so many people look at the deck as a very big Dark Horse deck, and that's what I'm starting to see here. Initially everybody's like, oh, it's dead, chalk it up, toss it in the trash can, but the innovators out here have been pushing relatively hard for this deck to stay relevant. That's why I think that as we head on into the weekend here, the weekend here is going to be the most important thing. Obviously, we are coming out of week 0 here, which was, the Calling Cards tournaments. We saw the first case tournament results that we've had. We have 10 regionals coming up here, which means people are going to start innovating the format, and I guarantee you are going to see way different results across every single sector here. Obviously, there's going to be an online regional, which I'm very curious to see how the results from that are going to differ with real life, actually, because there's usually some sort of differences there. But typical main headers here. Obviously, I initially thought that Sprite was going to be one of the best decks in the room. Obviously, Evil Twin Sprite Runic is an amazing variant of the deck. You also have, For Hire actually has been doing stuff with the deck. You gotta love free Runic value that you get out of that package. Regular old Sprite, and then Adventurer Sprite as well. Are there any other variants? There's probably 2 to 3 more out there in terms of that. But that's, if you're already looking at a deck with 4+ compatible variants to it, you kind of got to look around here and go, Wow. Labyrinth has also been very, very hyped. I've watched a couple of tier list videos, and everybody's putting Labyrinth in like absolute tier 1. Like, the deck is so crazy, Robbie. I have seen a lot of people play through these Labyrinth boards. Labyrinth cannot handle the pure amount of rogue out here. Like, I'm sorry to tell you that, while Labyrinth is a good deck this format, sure, but it loses to the most random things because it can't. It's a trap-based deck. It literally can't handle, every sort of variable. And especially if you have other rogue decks that are being viable, if the Labyrinth player doesn't know, say like the Dynamorphia matchup, somebody's gonna be like, well, that's a poor example. I mean, it's true. Those random matchups will ruin your day. Like I've never played against this. If they spent their entire time in the hyperbolic chime chamber just playing against, meta, and they're like, yeah, this is awesome. If they don't know how to play a back row mirror, especially with way more interactive things, or, more counter traps than they can really bring to the table, that's a big thing that you've got to really consider out here. Rogue options, they struggle with other rogues. Also, to be fair, I also want to point out here, buy steals. Magna Hut and Druis Worm, what we're going to call the big four. All right, 3 Magna Huts, 1 Druis Worm is seeing a lot of play right now. And that is something that you are going to have to be aware of, all right? If you are planning on playing anytime soon right now, in the very early stages of this format, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, are on buy steal. So if you're playing something like Sky Striker, you're like, oh, this is so awesome. I'm so happy to play Striker again. I got some interesting news for you. If all of a sudden your Ray disappears from the graveyard and the opponent has a 2500 attack buy steal suddenly on the field, that's something you're going to have to deal with. Oh, and the buy steal just triggered to go search for a Druis Worm for spot removal. Oh boy, that's awesome. That's kind of what you're dealing with right now in terms of the format. And also to answer the age-old question of, if you droll me after June 5th, I'm going to just expect that you're bad at this game. Droll is not a horrible card right now. I do expect that Droll is going to fall out of the format, but you have to give Yu-Gi-Oh players, 1, the chance to test that shift out. 2, people are still going to play Droll. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It doesn't matter how bad the format is. Somebody's still going to be like, oh, I have room. I may as well leave Drolls in here. It counters, maybe one matchup that might be deemed a little bit more horrible for them, and you will have that interaction. That's how it is. Like, trust me, I see it all the time, especially in localized environments. You'll probably see it on the regional level. So what's the overall, why are people upset with this format? People are upset because there's too many rogue decks, too many popular decks. I've noticed that more and more people want smaller deck formats because it's too extreme. Like, I can't process this. I can't side for this. Get good. That's all there is. I love these formats because it shows how healthy the game is. When you can pick up one of 20 decks and do okay with it, means the Konami's put the game back in a good position. It's a good thing for competitive play as well. Honestly, the more options that you can have in a game to make players interested, or, hey, I could make an adjustment to already existing cards I have, or, oh, hey, I'm a recurring player, I haven't played in a couple months, all I gotta do is go pick up a couple of little things. Sure, that's good. That's what makes a game. It's what makes players want to come back to your game, especially when you're heading into the WCQ season here. That's fantastic. So don't fall for this format is bad vibes. Be patient. Things haven't been figured out yet, but in the very early stages, I will tell you, one of the best formats I think I've seen in the game's history. And obviously, with leading into Duelist Nexus here, there's going to be some other very interesting things. And of course, there are a couple of FTKs that are running around right now. We'll have some relatively fun videos on this. They're not like competitively viable, but they are hilarious little things to actually see what players are kind of bringing to the table, especially, Kawakimura Doom interactions. Man, you gotta love to see it. So please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I think that this format actually is a lot of fun, and I'm expecting some relatively interesting things to come. You guys have a good rest of your day, alright? Patrons, thank you!
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.